In nature, if a mother loses her offspring, the breast ducts will...
Wait, there's ducks made out of breasts?
Activity. It's a healing cancer, so a duct will...
They really like those little crackers, too. The ones they give you with soup. Hey, humans, what's up? I'm Mickey. That's Quinn.
Hey!
And we're here to check out an interesting video which purports to offer an alternative to the germ theory of disease.
Someone on the Facebook group, Sir Kim, recommended that we watch this, telling us that this theory explains why the medifascist diagnosing and testing is such a good method to provoke sickness in the gullible layman.
Whew! Them's fighting words.
So we're gonna see if the video German New Medicine 101, Introduction to the 5 Biological Laws by
Dr. Melissa Snell. More on her later.
I think it might be Melissa Sell, which, if that's where we're starting, I have some thoughts already.
Yes, that is not totally inaccurate.
As Sergey would say, follow the money, you know?
Let's follow the information and then we'll follow up on the good doctor herself.
And so Dr. Hammer has linked together an entire science of which cancers are driven from which areas of the brain and which are...
But we don't need to see any of that data. We can just take her at her word.
So when bad shit happens, you get a tumor.
I wonder how many people bad things happen to that don't get tumors. Is this going to be in this presentation?
Diseases, did you catch that?
No, tell me again.
A disease is now to be thought of as a specialized biological
program.
Body presses a button, and the button sets off a specific program. The button's in the brain, and then it's communicated to the organ exactly what it needs to do to help you to resolve the conflict.
Can we get a picture of that button?
Killing you of cancer is usually a really good way of making you resolve a conflict.
That'll teach you.
Best way possible.
And he calls them laws because it's not just theory. Every single case...
Because he got them on a mountain, on a stone tablet.
I'm sure he was not at all inherently motivated to find some kind of meaning in the terrible events surrounding the death of his son.
The tragic shooting death of his child. Jesus.
And that's one of the most frustrating things.
You know what else trauma is consistent with? People losing their goddamn minds.
They do all the right things, they eat all the right foods. You know, one of the most remarkable things and unique things about GNM and the 5 biological laws is, you know, apart from, you know, even psychiatry.
She scoffs at psychiatry.
For the most part, you know, they realize stress is bad, but they don't take into account your personal viewpoint.
Psychiatry doesn't take apart your personal viewpoint?
Also, evolution.
Maybe a really bad, like, online psychiatrist.
And embryology. So literally...
I mean, let's be honest. Most people can't afford the doctors that would pay that much attention to them.
This is true.
But I don't think that has much to do with the science itself.
All right, hold on.
Dr.
Number
Hammer
1.
Also calls the first biological law the iron rule of cancer. And for this, there are 3 criteria. The first is that every disease, now we're calling significant biological special program, originates from the Dirk-Hammer syndrome, the DHS, which is an unexpected, highly acute, and isolating conflict shock.
So far we have no data about this. There's just some grainy pictures of brains with arrows on them.
Those circles are something we call a Hammer focus, which Dr. Hammer's colleagues originally made that name up as a joke because they would tell him, oh, this is just an artifact. This is not, you know, this isn't anything at all.
So they got dots on brain scans.
I prefer when my data is presented in 200 pixel wide pictures so I can evaluate it for myself.
Let me give you an example. The child sees a dog across the street, darts away from her mother, and a car comes by and hits the child. In that moment, the mother has a conflict shock. And all of a sudden, from the area of the cerebellar mesoderm, the motion is set for the glands of the breast to proliferate.
The body's like, well, we got to make another one.
That she is so
that one's gone.
That's at the heart of the theory, I think.
And this is regardless of whether or not the woman is lactating, the age of the woman. This is a built-in, deep down biological program that's
So breast cancer is the mother cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that has nothing to do with the fact that all women probably have something that fits into this.
Since we've departed from any and all data at this point, we are just listening to
A lady
a
read
story.
words.
Another example is an indigestible morsel conflict. And so something
The
that
thing that kind of annoys me about this kind of presentation is when they drop words like mesoderm and 3-4 syllable words into their yarn, you know? It's like totally unnecessary.
There is most likely some truth in what she's talking about.
Right.
It's just taken to an extreme that
There's like no base for this certainty. That's what's interesting.
Yeah.
She just speaks as if it's like fact.
Right.
She uses lots of big words. Like the mesoderm is a structure.
she's sort of like, well, the people in the mainstream speak with certainty, and so that must be how you talk about these things. But she's not asking, well, what is required to develop that kind of certainty?
And it's not that modern medicine on Earth doesn't think that psychological trauma is involved in initiation of disease. They're just not certain about how to make those claims.
Or how widespread it is.
Right.
And that's definitely something that needs to be looked into, hands down. But this is frustrating because it's spreading a false certainty in the other direction.
Like 90% of this is pretty hard to argue with.
This is like a generation of narcissists. Figure out all of your traumas, and if you figure out all of your traumas, you'll be healthy forever.
What are you afraid of? What makes you feel vulnerable? This is after that conflict happened, after you got the news, after you got the phone call, after you got the diagnosis, after you found out about the whatever. This is your psyche is in compulsive thinking mode.
But maybe people will do those studies in the future.
You think they will?
Well, I don't know that they'll necessarily prove this theory as it's placed, but
all of it, that there are things
certainly the brain is involved in all sorts of endocrine, immunological. I mean, just 20, 30 years ago on Earth, they didn't really even understand how the brain talked to the immune system.
Sure. Did you notice that this stage is called conflictolysis?
Specific situation with the
It's interesting because instead of this theory being built off of a lot of evidence and whatever observations we can, right,
Observations,
apparent things,
unimportant.
exactly. It's just built off of baseless assertions. It also doesn't seem incompatible with state-of-the-art medical ideas. And it's interesting, she started her presentation with like, everything we know about genetics and medicine is wrong. It's like, I
also don't need to substantiate those. It's enough to just say it.
It could mean your body, turning off your beta cells of your pancreas, so you stop making insulin, so you've got a lot of sugar in your blood, so that you have a lot of energy, so that you can resolve this situation.
More random anatomy, physiology thrown in. Yes, beta cells are a real cell.
So is insulin. It's a real thing.
Did you look at them?
No. This is an example of what could be. Maybe.
So certain tumors, when they build up, tubercular bacteria will break them down. They'll be very particular.
And this is sort of at the heart of all of the terrain theory advocates.
To your body,
the bacteria are correlated with the disease because they're the ones that show up to eat it.
Right.
Especially important that you let your body heal, that you do the rest, that you take the time, and you let.
Also hard to argue with. Stop going to work when you're puking. Mainstream medicine, of course, advocates that you do go to work when you're puking.
Yeah, seriously. They're like, never go to home when you could go to work.
Fluid that has rushed into the area of the brain.
Can I get a note for a work doc?
Symptoms of
Absolutely not.
Pukey.
This is the best time to work, son, according to modern medicine.
Because of the fluid. This needs to be broken down.
I wonder if this is what she talks about while she's working on your back.
I'm
going to do some realignments. Have you ever heard about the new germ in medicine?
You mean the 5 biological laws?
Oh, you know about that too?
Why would I be going to a chiropractor if I didn't?
The program of like being.
Have you seen my tumors?
It's a
massage them out, doc.
It's a phrase that's like, my nose is full. Like, this stinks. Like, you're just like, this sucks. This stinks. And so your body, what it does when you're conflict active with that, will erode the lining of your nose because it wants to sniff out, it wants to get rid of this problem. And then
it's like a mixture of like Jungian psychology and terrain theory.
There's a state of nature that you can return to where you're perfectly happy and free of disease, which may actually be more repressive than religion in some way. Because at least religion can be clearly seen as being fictionalized, but this is like
Yeah, what's worse than getting a tumor? Having everybody tell you it's your fault.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, you must have not dealt with your trauma properly.
In the nose.
Weakling.
If you are experiencing a lot of bleeding, get to the hospital so you can have a transfusion.
Best advice in this whole presentation.
In an emergency, call 911.
Forget everything I said.
Supporting your healing process.
Unreal.
And so that's all it is. It's a supportive process. Some of them you're just going to have to go through without the aiding of medication, because the medication doesn't just numb you. It changes your physiology. It changes what your body's. It's happening
But it's like
at the brain level too.
not totally crap either, because it makes sense that inflammation would do something. If you just knock down the inflammation all the time,
urinary phase, because again,
you have an injury. It's like
go out. On the organ level, there's spasms.
I don't know.
If you're having lots of heart attacks, something else is going wrong. Seriously.
Cramping to squeeze out edema. Complex.
She does have a really nice soothing voice, I gotta say.
That's true.
To what we are now, it's like the most profound magic that seems so.
She reminds me of a babysitter I had when I was a little baby alien.
It's just something we're immersed in life.
Do you want me to leave you alone with this video for a little bit?
Oh, take me back.
This is how your body came to be what it is now. So they have to do with, guess what? Attack conflict. So if you're feeling attacked, if you
have a mechanism for that?
Shut up.
And so again, this could be actual physical attack. Someone slaps your face. Someone's like saying all kinds of mean things to you. Cause things like acne. In nature, if a mother loses her offspring, the breast ducts, so you lose this child that you were prepared to have, whether, I guess this can even happen during a miscarriage, or if
there's ducts made out of breasts?
Breasts made out of ducts. Ducks, actually. There's little ducts inside that they get milk.
I gotta see one of these breast ducts.
Yeah, milk is actually tons and tons of tiny little eggs suspended in lymph. From all the breast ducts.
The breast ducts are still going to respond in this way, even if you're not lactating, even if you're not.
Keep the breast ducts happy.
So you have to feed a lot of grain and bread.
Pattern of
keeps the breast ducts happy.
They really like those little crackers too. The ones they give you for soup.
Is this torn from my breast separation conflict? The breast ducts during the conflict activity, and that is to siphon off the built-up milk to prevent any blockage of milk getting stuck in the canal because of the fact that there's no baby to have the milk. The germ gets on a person. They could be totally fine because they're not conflict active and their body isn't using that bacteria to help with the healing process. And Dr. Hammer found that specifically with endodermal tissues, again,
this part is really being worked out in medicine right now, especially with this recent pandemic. It doesn't really seem like the germs are the whole story.
I would agree with
or
that.
even the major player.
Sure. I think that the germs, once there, speeds the downward slope if your system is incapable of killing them. Like if you're already sick and a germ gets in, that germ will make you die faster.
That might be true.
Because there is terrain involved, but there are people who are very susceptible. Let's be clear about that.
It's not messing up. It's not screwing up. It is.
I just lost my mom to a specialized program.
SBSPs. Let's look at her website. She's definitely selling stuff. Health Mindset Coach. She looks good. She looks healthy. I'd take advice from her. She could sell me anything. She could be selling yarn, stickers.
Yeah, I'd buy it.
Herbs, whatever.
She could just talk.
Seriously.
Well, what did we learn?
She's just selling something, and her entire presentation is centered around the fact that she's selling the thing that will cure you.
And so is Western medicine. And that's kind of the scariest thing about all of this science is it's like deeply rooted in industry and making cash.
I don't know. It's like you can't trust Western medicine because it's selling you things, and you can't trust her because she's selling you things. Everyone's trying to sell you something. Sucks. Don't pay anyone money. You can figure it out on your own.
Unless it makes you feel good and you have tons of money. But in that case, you should give us some of it instead.
Us first, Melissa Sell second.
That's the real truth here.
Yes.
You're going to waste money on the internet? Give it to me.
Waste it on the aliens.
We got nothing.
I agree. We don't even
Seriously.
have clothes. We're naked. Naked as the day we were born.
There's some good ideas in here and a lot of baseless speculation.
Yep. Data's important. Data doesn't prove anything, but actually being able to look at the data that people use to make their conclusions, that is important.
Assumptions are everything, humans.
Yep.
All right, I'm done.